What motivated you to re-record the vocals?
Well, for me, re-recording all the vocals on Node was kind of a chance to go back and just kind of smooth out some of the stuff that maybe I wasn't as happy with, or I wasn't in a position yet to do to my fullest kind of ability. I think in particular, my screaming and stuff has evolved a lot since then, and I've grown a lot with that. But also, I think with anything, when you record something, you always have this thought in the back of your mind, like months down the line, like, oh, I wish I did that different. I wish I hit a certain note a certain way. So doing this re-recording of all the vocals was a chance to do that, and it was a lot of fun kind of going back and kind of nailing parts that I maybe wasn't as happy with when we did it. There's one part in particular in a song called Leech where there's like the chorus note kind of just goes straight to this one note with no kind of sliding note to it, and that always stuck out in my mind. I was like, oh, I wish it was like this. So there's a lot of stuff like that where now I've been able to go back and make it exactly how I like it, so yeah.
When we were recording Node, my role was unique at the time. I was helping out with lyric writing for the first time ever because Marcus was so fresh into the band that it was just kind of like a bridge too far for him, no pun intended. So I took on that role, had kind of no idea what I was doing at the time, just threw myself head first into it, and Will helped us out a fair bit with that as well. But yeah, that's primarily what my role was.
It was a stressful time because we didn't have all the songs finished before going into the studio, so for me personally that's quite stressful because I guess what I had to do is sort of learn the songs while we were in the studio. Luckily, we did the drums last, so I had 3 weeks to learn 10 songs. I already knew Rot because we'd already recorded that, but all of the other songs I'd never played on the drums before. So personally, I was incredibly stressed out. I think as a whole, Node was a lot more progressive than our previous records, and I think specifically on the drums, they definitely lent more into the prog world rather than the metal world. So it was a massive challenge for me to get a lot of those parts down and get them feeling good. And then obviously the tracking just took longer because of that. It's sometimes hard mentally when you're doing that, and you know that if you had more time preparing, it could have been a lot smoother. So that was always in the back of my mind. I think I was beating myself up a lot in that regard because I felt like I wasn't playing my role to the standard that I would like to. But in saying that, after a few years and listening back on the record, I'm incredibly proud of what I was able to achieve.
Despite not really knowing what was going to happen with Northlane, when Marcus first joined, I actually look back on that and I wasn't as stressed as I thought I probably would be. It felt like a lot was counting on it, but also, yeah, I don't remember being stressful, but yeah, back then it was a lot of riding on the road and just knowing I've just got to get 10 songs to make up an album. It was almost like a checklist. And also just going into the studio and writing while you're in the studio as well. That was pretty common for us. But now we like to take our time and get things right and be as prepared as possible. But also the writing process is a lot more collaborative these days as well. Marcus and I, the band as a whole actually, but Marcus and I especially work on vocals and instrumental and, we change things. The instrumental might change, the vocals might change. And back then, at least before Node, it was instrumental is written, vocals go on top, boom, call it a day kind of thing. So yeah, it's very different now, very different.
It was only a few months after I joined Northlane, maybe 3 or 4 months, where we went into the studio to record Node. And at that point, we'd pretty much been on tour like 3 of those 4 months. So I was experiencing a lot of new stuff that I'd never done before, you know, touring the world, getting to do all this stuff that I'd always wanted to do, but kind of really being dropped in the deep end. So by the time we entered the studio to record Node, it was like, I don't know, I still feel like I hadn't quite found my feet yet. I hadn't quite just settled in and really had the time to, like, I don't know, figure out what we were doing even, like figure out what we're actually going into the studio to record. So a lot of that stuff was kind of worked on while we're sitting on the back of a bus and while we're just kind of in constant motion. And yeah, it was just super stressful, I guess. That being said, like, it all turned into something that I think we're all really proud of. But with that being said, it was kind of like, we never really had the time to stop and just reflect on it and see, like, I don't know, was this exactly what we wanted? We didn't really have the time to stop and just really hone in on it. I guess I was still trying to adjust to how Northlane worked in terms of how they wrote music together and where I fit into that, I guess. And I think just, yeah, I was so nervous and so low in my own confidence of writing lyrics and stuff at that point that I really heavily relied on Josh in particular to help guide the lyrical stuff. But since then, I feel like, yeah, I've been able to settle in with the guys, really figure out what that is for me in the band, and obviously started writing lyrics of my own experience and stuff that I'm passionate about. I think that's turned into something that, as we've progressed and written more music, something that just encapsulates all of us, not just a few of us at that time.
It's a lot more collaborative these days, and I guess neither person in the band is afraid of trying something for the sake of it. Even if it's just some half-assed idea, you know, it's worth exploring sort of all, you know, it's worth exploring all of it, you know.
I haven't felt this rushed or under this much pressure since, no, but I think we learnt from that, and that's why I haven't felt that, or we haven't felt that. I've been way more proactive, working on stuff way more, a lot longer in advance than I guess time allowed for Node. But we're also aware of that, so it's kind of in our plans to have that time to allow the sort of space to turn everything into muscle memory. So not only can the recording process be smoother and more stress-free, but it can also take far less time. I can do it a lot quicker. So yeah, we learn a lot from that.
Some of the songs have taken on a new meaning since we first recorded them. Some of them, it's almost like the original meanings have taken on new forms. So I think a really great example is Impulse, which was kind of talking about what social media was doing to us 10 years ago. And I kind of feel like those lyrics are like even more relevant now. Since then we've seen, you know, a crazy growth in the impact that like the internet's had on people's lives and social media, and is like AI now as well. and kind of what that's doing to our existing relationships with other human beings. So I think like it was really interesting for me listening back to these songs and being like, oh, you know, those things that were important to me back then are like still very important now. And all the stuff that was kind of about environmentalism as well. So Leech was one of those songs. And politically themed stuff like Rot is probably more relevant than ever now. So I think, you know, picking those sort of topics to write about has kind of made it feel even more relevant to me today, and has helped the songs age well.
I think it's a very expressive record for us, and we didn't really try and pigeonhole ourselves too much with it. We kind of were very free when we were writing it, and I think Marcus's addition into it also allowed us to be more free, and in turn, I think we created something without trying to do what we were doing. You know, it just happened very organically, and to me, I think those albums that are organic have staying power because they're authentic, and there's something about them it's not faked, it's not trying to be something, it's not copying something. And that's really hard to do because if you're trying to do that, then you inherently do it, you know? You inherently make it the opposite of what you're trying to, where I think at the time, we were just trying to make it happen in the time and space that we had. So, and the byproduct of that being, I think it lent itself to being something that was a little bit, dare I say, more timeless.
I think the songwriting was kind of intentionally done in a way that it didn't just sit in one era of like a sound. I remember when we were writing some lyrics and stuff for Node with Josh, he was very adamant about making sure that the things we talked about and the lyrical content kind of didn't reflect a certain time period. It was important for it to just feel timeless in a way. So I think that really helps in terms of where this version is kind of ended up. But yeah, I think musically as well, the parts are just really nice. Listening back to a lot of this stuff, hearing a lot of these lead lines, they're just like really well-written melodies on John's part. And I think stuff like that does just make things seem a bit more timeless.
When I was writing it, I wasn't trying to write specifically for whatever was popular at that moment. I think gent and that, you know, metalcore at least was still pretty popular then in like 2013 or 2014 or whenever it was we started writing Node. So it would have been easy to just do like a Singularity 2.0, and I think if I had, then it would sound dated.
John didn't really follow any trends that were happening in metalcore at the time when we recorded it. That has a lot to do with our production decisions for that album. Whether or not those decisions had an impact on how it connected with people is something else that I think maybe we've kind of identified now, and going back into it with the new production that we've done for the re-release has made it feel really current. But interestingly, the songs have held up because the way that they were written was more influenced by prog bands, and the lyrics were sort of broader topics. It doesn't really timestamp it in the way that our first two records are to us, which was a really cool discovery that we only made after the album had been redone and we heard it remixed with the new vocals on there.
I think at the time when we first did Node, it was obviously a big change in Northlane's sound. And I think we kind of don't even realize how, without sounding like cocky or anything, like it feels like quite ahead of its time in terms of the music and how it's all written. So to do it now I don't know, it just feels new. It feels like something that could be released now. It feels, I don't know, it's kind of hard to pinpoint.
You added any additional parts to the re-recording?
Yeah, so I wasn't going to, and then Buster hit me up on the side and was like, you could really utilize some of the newer sounds, the synth sounds and stuff that you do on this new Node stuff. And at the time I was busy doing new Northlane. I didn't think I had the time, and then I thought about it and I was like, probably should just do it. This is like, you don't usually get a chance to do this. I didn't want to overcook it. I thought it would probably be quite easy to just go, okay, let's like alienify Node. So I did it sparingly to sort of basically just bring it up to a more modern standard of recording. As far as like the new synths and sort of production is concerned, I think the song that got the most work was probably Weightless. There's a lot of new pads, and I redid the main synth in that because back then I wasn't really doing synths and stuff, and I think even just that first synth that kicks off the song was just some preset in like Omnisphere, and now I've redone it with like my equipment, so there's been a lot more love and care put into it. I was already thinking about Buster to maybe mix the new stuff, and yeah, I just thought, let's just try with Node. It'd be a completely different take on it.
In general, the whole mix and the dynamic of it is it kind of just sounds like how we would have wanted it to in the first place. I think even still when we recorded Node initially, we were looking for a bit more of a rocky, raw sound. But listening to these songs now in their current form, it feels right to have a bit more of a modern production to it, and to me it just sounds like something that we could have released this year, and it doesn't feel wrong. It feels like it fits into our sound, and it feels very different to the music we're writing now, but it feels like we could have done it if we went in a different direction, just released that now.
You know, this was written 10, 11 years ago, yet it doesn't feel like it was released then. It feels like it probably could still be released today, and I think that's exciting, and I hope people enjoy listening to it in this new, refurbished way, the way I did, because yeah, hearing this record this way was really exciting for me, and I think the rest of the guys as well. Obviously, you know, Mux has re-recorded the vocals is on top of that, and it's given it so much life. And yeah, it's like a new dimension for this record.
I'm super excited for fans to go back and listen to these songs, because I think there's a lot of really heavy moments in them that like weren't very well translated with the original production, that are really going to stick out to them and sound kind of massive. I think it'll be cool as well for fans that, you know, really liked the Node record to listen to it with a breath of fresh air and kind of rediscover the songs all over again.
I feel like because of the time when we recorded Node and it being such a big shift in the band's sound, as well as it being my first album, I think a lot of people were kind of fighting against it almost, in a way, of how it sounds and it being so different. And with this kind of modern production of it, I think it gives a chance for people to reassess it, and I think without having the stigma of it being first album with a new vocalist, I think it gives people a chance to just enjoy it for what it is. Yeah, I think we've kind of grown so much that, one, we've picked up a whole bunch of new fans, and it's not as much of a shock anymore that we're a band that doesn't stay in one place and doesn't just kind of repeat what we did before. So I'm thinking people will be quite excited to hear this, and will feel like it's just something new, not something that's changing from something before it. So I think that's really exciting. I think people will be quite shocked by how heavy some of this stuff sounds with this new production. Yeah, I'm just really excited for people to hear it.